and go through all the shows, Hélène les Garçons, Les Vacances de l'amour, Les Mystères de l'amour, and whatever other side show going on. Before we do all that, so let's start with a little bit of context. La fâcherie is a French word for that that is derived from the word fâché, which means angry. And la fâcherie is a noun that describes a situation where people are angry but for insignificant reason, or something that subsequently seems insignificant. But to be honest with you, at the time in 1992, when this episode came out, it was very clear that this show was written by older people. So yeah, it took a while for the writers of the show to make these young people who are supposedly 19, 20 years old, um, for these young people to actually sound like we did at the time, because the writers of the show were significantly older than our generation, which is like Gen X and stuff. Although I think Helen is a boomer technically, like they're all the actors are boomers technically, but I don't remember now. I'm going to make an episode focusing on Helen a little bit later. Um, if you are upset because my videos don't come out every week or on a regular schedule, it's because I have things to do. I have like work and medical appointments, and I'm 50. I no, it's not happening. So I'm not trying to make views. I'm not going to like start a Patreon next week. I'm not trying to be Mrs. Beast on the YouTubes. No. Okay. If I wanted to make views and make money, I would be doing TikTok commentary. At this moment in time in January 2025, that's the cool thing, because that's all I see on my YouTube page, and it's very annoying. Also, TikTok commentary from African ladies in Ghana and Nigeria and Angola.
Because the
I
people
don't know
writing
what it
this
is with
show are a
African
little bit
ladies and their
older than
TikTok
we were at
commentary,
the
but I'm
time.
loving every minute of it. It's just a little
They
bit too
just
much.
thought that
His misogyny and general grumpiness were
the girls are
they
late for
wanted
their
to
date with
project
the
it
lads,
as
and Christian
a
partakes in
sign of
some
his
misogyny
shyness
by
and
referring to
inadequacy.
Joanna as the monster.
But that's not how it came across. It
So
just
if you're
came
watching
across
this,
as nowadays,
this boy
it's
has a
just like,
lovely
who is this
girlfriend and he
boy?
treats her like
How
shit.
can we kill him?
So
But the fact that a whole bunch of people disapproved of Christian kind of made him a secondary hero of the show, because they tried all kinds of ways to redeem him, and the actor Sébastien Roch, he also, because he was only a kid when this show is airing, he is still 17 years old. So yeah, so I was 17 years old at that time. He didn't have any kind of power or authority to say anything to anyone. He just had to go with the flow. And then when he was older, he did manage to change the character of Christian toward something that he was more comfortable with, and that kind of redeemed all this stuff that is going on now chronologically in the show. But when Helen arrives 30 minutes late, he is all smiles. So behind the girls' backs, Christian is a grumpy monkey, but when he sees the girls, he is extremely pleased. Helen explains that Joanna and Kathy are trying to retrieve the car keys that fell in a drain in the street. Okay, so any kind of sewage system. This is Paris, so there are sections of the sewage system in Paris that date of from the 19th century, and I heard a rumor that certain sections haven't changed since Roman times. So that tells you what Paris is like. Um, So basically, Joanna lost her keys, and Kathy stayed with her to try and retrieve them. Etienne decides to get up and go help, but when Christian assures him that there's no need, as Joanna will no doubt sort it out because she's creative and resilient. Kathy and Joanna arrive looking like they have been rolling in the mud. It turns out that Joanna and Kathy had to lift a manhole cover and retrieve the car keys from the sewer. Joanna was surprised that none of the gawkers or passersby offered to help. And if you notice, Patrick Puydebas breaks character a little bit because he has to say something that he feels is stupid.
Vous êtes de vraies petites merveilles, c'est évident.
Ta petite merveille préférée a besoin d'un gros bisou immédiatement. Tout de suite, vite, je suis en manque.
There is a moment where Christian is visibly fascinated to hear how Joanna took charge of the situation and jumped down into the sewer to find her keys. Unfortunately, when she did jump, Joanna didn't think about how she was going to get out. So Kathy had to go to a phone booth because there's no cell phones, remember, go to a phone booth with change and coins and call the police, who then called the sewer technicians in Paris, which are called égoutiers. Joanna mentions that her rescuers were handsome, triggering a jealous pouting moment from Christian, who, although he calls her all the names, doesn't like it when she shows interest in other men. See what I mean? In real life, the character of Christian uh, was heavily criticized by feminists and parental associations for his attitude towards Joanna. That was called xenophobic, anti immigrant, blah, 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 all sorts, anti woman. And a lot of the adults at the time were worried that this show was giving us wrong messaging about womanhood and what is acceptable from a man and things like that. So, time to go to the cinema, and it is Nicolas' turn to pay, but he already has a hole in his brand new blazer. Damn consumerist society, he mutters. So, already in 1992, we were starting to see a shift between the quality and the price of clothes. It has started to dip. You have to remember that Zara is based in Spain, sorry. You have to remember that Zara is based in Spain, and when Zara started making a lot of money with lower quality, well, not well, yeah, lower quality clothes at a cheaper price but in higher volume, it kind of had a knock-on effect on all the brands that were not fast fashion at the time, but that were very popular with this demographic. So 20, let's say 15 to 25-year-olds. All right. So Helen offers to repair the blazer since your mom's not around. Can you imagine saying that on TV nowadays? Anyway, so she takes the jacket and goes back to her dorm. Back at the impossibly nice student accommodation, Helen and Joanna are chatting and sewing when Kathy arrives in a huff. Remember this conversation, it's going to be relevant in future episodes. Jean Bernard drove her back from class on his motorbike. Jean Bernard is one of their classmates. He has a Harley Davidson, and clearly the motorbike ride was more than she bargained for. So that's a side conversation, but it's going to be relevant. I think it's season 3. This Jean Bernard person pops up again, or maybe it's later this. I don't remember. I haven't marathon the whole thing again, so I'm watching it as I'm making the videos. I'm rewatching it as I'm making the videos. So Kathy warns Helen that repairing Nicolas' clothes sends a negative message to him about the kind of relationship they're in. She reckons he should figure it out for himself or pay a seamstress. After, remember, they've only been dating about a month, maybe 3 months. About somewhere, the timeline is a little bit confusing, but it's been maybe Yeah, a couple of weeks since episode one, a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months, grand max. So she declares that she has no intention of doing this sort of domestic work for Etienne. No cleaning, no sewing, no nothing. If you know, no, it's not happening. I love Kathy; she's awesome. Um, that is when Helen realizes, after closing up the stitch, that there's a piece of paper floating inside the lining of the jacket, and that she has to unpick everything and blah blah blah. After unpicking, Joanna insists on reading the note and finding out what it is. Helen says, I respect Nicola's privacy, but Joanna and Kathy are unable to hide and fix their faces, and clearly the note is not what they expected. So Helen takes the note back and says, we were not supposed to read it. I am not supposed to read it. This is Nicola's private life. I just wanted to sew the pocket. I will not be I will not be reading this letter. And she tells the girls to not worry about it, and that it's not a big deal, and she doesn't want to know. So she puts it back in the pocket, puts it away, and everybody goes to bed. In the night, Helen tosses and turns, unable to sleep. She gets up to read the letter, finally, in the bathroom alone, which is probably what she wanted to do in the first place when she saw um, Joanna and Kathy's facial expressions. And we see that the letter is really bad because she leaves the bathroom crying. Ads are at the smallest and oddest gym in the world, and Helen and the girls arrive, and Helen returns to Nicolas his jacket, showing that it's repaired, but she refuses his thank you kiss that he tries to give her. She doesn't want to look at him. She doesn't want to talk to him. Nicolas is puzzled and asked what's wrong, but Helen won't discuss it. She says that she doesn't feel well, um, and uh, um, and that she doesn't want to talk about it, and that nothing's wrong. It's just that she doesn't feel well. She's in a bad mood. Etienne asked Kathy if she would do all this wonderful sewing for him as well, and she looks at him dead in the eye and says, "Well, actually, to be honest, no, I wouldn't," which everybody thinks is really funny. Unfortunately for Christian, Joanna volunteers to darn, patch, repair whatever Christian wants, and even and tells him that it won't be perfect because she can't sew, but she would do it out of love, and she would learn how to do it out of love for him. Obviously, being very pragmatic, Christian is like, that might be cool. Helen speaks to Nicolas in monosyllabic answers. Yes, no, I don't know. Yes, bleh, bleh. She says that she is unwell and claims to be ill. So Kathy says that it's girl business. In those days, girl business meant periods. Okay, and when Helen leaves, Kathy goes with her. So Helen is at the improbably classy and upmarket student accommodation, crying on her bed when Kathy arrives a few seconds behind her. And she figures out that Helen did, in fact, read the letter that was floating around in Nicola's jacket. Kathy tries to minimize the situation, but to Helen, the phrases, my darling bunny, I miss your kiss on my skin and dream of you holding me in your arms all night, is the nail in the coffin. It's not nothing. This is serious, and no excuses, no trying to pacify the situation can make her feel better. Kathy tries to find excuses. Maybe it's an old letter. Maybe it's not addressed to him. But Helen refuses to give Nicola the benefit of the doubt because in the letter there's a there's a sentence that she has memorized, which is, "My darling bunny, I miss your kiss on my skin and dream of you holding me all night." And that she cannot forgive. So it's been 3 days, and the lads don't understand why Joanna, Kathy, and Helen refuse all their dates, and why specifically Helen is never available to speak on the phone. Okay, they don't want to spend any time with them. They don't want to see them. And the boys are kind of, especially Etienne and Nicolas, are getting kind of worried. Christian is enjoying the break. He says, 3 days without Joanna is 3 months vacation for me. Ha ha ha, but Nicolas is concerned. Etienne and Christian have each spoken to their girlfriend. So Etienne has spoken to Kathy on multiple occasions, and Christian has spoken to Joanna on multiple occasions. But when Nicolas tries to speak to Helen, she's always out or in the bathroom, or she's studying, or she's doing something. That's why Christian proposes to forget about them and to go charm one of the 30 million women who are in France and single. Okay, or not. We all know what our French boys are like sometimes. All right, that's when Joanna shows up at their third story window. Yes, this is the second time that Joanna climbs the drain pipe to reach the boys' dorm window. She has something to tell the boys without telling the girls. She has a secret she needs to reveal. After giving her Cricri a big kiss, she angrily turns to Nicolas, who has no clue why she's angry with him. So the next day, Joanna drags the girls to the very strange and creepy windowless cafeteria. Helen suspects something. She's like, "Why do you want me here? Are you trying to set me up? But are the lads coming or something like? I don't want to see him. I'm done. I just want to move on with my life." But Joanna says, "No, the boys aren't here. Let's just order something to drink and relax. Just leave the dorm. Just staying inside all the time is not going to help us feel better." So the waiter comes along. We've never seen a waiter in this cafeteria. That's why it's called a cafeteria. But this strange waiter shows up, and he looks kind of familiar. And when he shows up, Kathy and Joanna sneak off to let them talk.
Mais qu'est-ce que vous faites?
Continue à m'écouter, Hélène.
Nicolas, mais qu'est-ce que tu fais déguisé comme ça?
Turns out the jacket was new to Nicolas, but initially belonged to his brother. But when he got home, he didn't quite like when he bought it a couple of weeks ago. He didn't like the fit, so he told Nicolas, "I don't like this jacket. Which give me $10 and I'll sell it to you," and that's it. So that's probably the note was probably his big brother's note from one of his girlfriends or his actual girlfriend. But Helen is having none of it, and it decides to leave, obviously. But he tries to hold her back. "Please listen to me, I beg you, and trust me. I would never do this to you." You know the show. Okay, you've seen this show before. Conveniently, 2 minutes before the end of the episode, she has a change of heart, and she says these very famous words that I've never forgotten, because I was just like, that is not the kind of woman I want to be. She says, "I want to believe you." Do you understand what I'm saying? I want to believe you. It's not that your story makes sense. I get it and I believe you. Okay. It's not like Nicolas. Obviously, they didn't do that in the show because that would mean paying someone else. But Nicolas didn't show up with his brother. Okay. So the brother could say something. He didn't call the brother on the phone or whatever, or none of that. He just manipulated her friends to have Helen meet him, and then she chose to believe him. "I want to believe you," she says. So Joanna is very proud of the success of her scheme, and we leave our friends until the next episode. Thank you so much for staying to the end. I remind you that we are supported by a local business here in Switzerland, in Geneva, called Only Three Sewing. They have their own website, only3sewing.com. Go and have a look. They're not taking any orders right now because they're on vacation for the Christmas holidays. But if you drop them a note and tell them that we sent you, and don't forget to check them out on social media and on all the things, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is.